Writing Out Loud, a program designed to explore in-depth interviews with writers to hear that words have voices.
Hello everyone, I'm Teresa Miller and welcome to Writing Out Loud. My very special guest today is acclaimed filmmaker Sterlin Harjo. Welcome, Sterlin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I love the word acclaimed. How does it feel? Your films are getting so much recognition now.
It feels good. I mean, on one hand, you feel gratitude for it. Acclaimed is one of those words where it doesn't necessarily mean you're making a living off of it. So, it's up and down, and I'm really appreciative that people like the films and critics like the films and people that see them like the films. On the other hand, I wish more people saw the films. So, it feels good, but I also, I'm from Holdenville, Oklahoma, and I think that instilled in you growing up in Oklahoma in general is a sense of and it's sort of, it's not very humble to say this, but instilled in you is I think is a sense of humility and, encouragement to be humble. And so I never, I think that I never get ahead of myself and get really satisfied. I'm always like, oh, I could have done that better, or I could do this better, or the next one I'm going to do a lot better. But I think that helps me keep moving forward. So it's a positive thing.
Oh, absolutely. When you were at the University of Oklahoma, you studied painting and filmmaking. Do those two disciplines complement each other at all?
Well, I think the obvious complementary aspects of the two mediums are the visual, composition. You're looking to compose a picture within film, and in painting it's the same way. But yeah, I mean, they're different, and I get different things out of them. So,
when did you first reach out to the Sundance Institute?
I was at the University of Oklahoma, and a professor had told me that there was someone from Sundance coming. I should go listen to them speak. And so that's what I did. I went and I listened to Bird Running Water speak. And he was speaking there because he knew there were, there's Native people in Oklahoma. He's a Cheyenne Arapaho from Clinton, Oklahoma. He graduated from OU, so he came back to speak. And I'd heard about Sundance because of Quentin Tarantino and Paul Thomas Anderson and all of that. And so I went and listened to him speak, and he was talking about the Filmmakers Lab and the program that they have and how competitive it is, but they're looking for projects. And so I just approached him after the meeting, and which is sort of unlike me, and I approached him after the meeting and just said, I want to make films. I want to figure out how to do this. And so we started talking. I had this script. I told him about it. He wanted to see it. I sent it to him. He liked it. I didn't get into the labs, but Sundance in general liked it enough to stay in touch with me. So a couple years later, I wrote 4 Sheets to the Wind, the script to 4 Sheets to the Wind, and it got in. And that's sort of what really started everything, I think.
Wow, and when it premiered there, you got a standing ovation.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I?
That's what I've read.
Okay, I probably did. I think I did. There's been a couple.
That's humility.
my favorite standing ovation was in Italy, though. That was at Venice Film Festival. That was fun because it was with Barking Water, and the whole screening. No one laughed, and usually that's the only way I know if someone likes something is if they laugh, and it was just silence during the whole thing. And me and my producer were actually just kind of freaking out because it's sort of and in Europe it's or at least at Venice they sort of make you watch the film with the audience, and so we had to come in. There's a spotlight on us, and we sit down with the audience. And at the end of the film, I was about ready to run out,
Really?
and they stood up and gave us a standing ovation, faced us and clapping. And I realized that they identified with the drama of the film, and not they didn't really get the humor, but they understood the drama of it, and that's what they identified with. So,
do you think that would be true for all audiences, or is each audience unique?
Each audience unique. I feel I get more laughs from Native Indian audiences. There's subtle humor that I feel that is that just growing up with that type of humor you get. And then there's another side of it, which is Oklahoma audiences usually laugh more and get more of where I'm coming from. When I get outside of that, it changes different ways. But, you know, most of the times, I think all of my films have a universal themes running throughout, so it's easy for people to relate to them.
I agree with you, and I sometimes get frustrated when I hear your work labeled a Native American story. That's too simple.
Yeah.
Certainly they're uniquely Native American in a lot of ways, but I like the universality of them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I fought that for a long time. I didn't like being called a Native American filmmaker because it was, you know, you don't want to be pigeonholed, and I just really wrote about what I knew. But I also come to terms with it and feel pretty good about it. And, you know, it's exciting for me because I imagine whoever started making, you know, films about teenagers,
Sure.
the first teenager film, you know, I bet they were excited because they're like, no one's ever done this before.
Right.
And that's sort of how I feel. It's like no one's ever made films with the characters and the people that I talk about. So it's like I get to do it for the first time. And I also love making films that I know would never be made if I didn't make them. So.
Tell us a little bit about your heritage.
I'm Muskogee Creek and Seminole. I'm enrolled Seminole. I'm from Holdenville, Oklahoma. I'm also Italian, and a few other things sprinkled in here and there.
Good mix.
Yeah, I grew up predominantly with my, you know, my native family. It's a huge family, and you know, it was a small town and played football, and I was always the artist. I was always the kid that could draw things. So. That's what I always wanted to be, was a painter. But it wasn't until I got to the University of Oklahoma that I fell in love with film, and that really changed everything. So,
when you were growing up, what sort of films did you enjoy?
a lot of war movies. You know, my dad and I would watch it. Like, I was never censored or anything like that. We would just watch. I mean, we know like Platoon by heart, Full Metal Jacket by heart, Tour of Duty, like the TV show and the film. We know that by heart. And then like weird stuff like Howard the Duck and License to Drive and like what's the vampire movie?
There's several of them these days.
It's with the Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. I forget. Dang. Anyway, we watch a lot of The Lost Boys, and we watch a lot of and the Goonies. You know, everything. I watched a lot. Everything that I could see. I mean, I wasn't watching like, you know, Godard or French New Wave cinema or anything like that. That wasn't until I got to college that I really looked at film as something that I could study. And then that's when I realized that there was a language with cinema. There's a language that you can speak with the camera and with the shots. And that's when I was like, ooh, I like this, and I can like get into this and obsess about it. And, that's what really excited me.
Let's focus on some of the films. First of all, Good Night, Irene is short. 14 minutes long.
Yeah.
Only a handful of characters. What did you hope to accomplish within those constraints?
You know, I wanted to make a short film that took place in one location. You see a lot of student films and short films that they try to make them big, and they almost feel like a feature film that's just cut short.
Nicely said.
And so I wanted to just do it all in one location with a small amount of characters. And I was just interested. I've been like growing up, I've always been the person and the kid that listens and talks to older people. Like I just like doing that. Like, and so I wanted a film that was a conversation between a middle-aged man and an elder woman and a young guy, and just the differences and also the similarities between them. And it also sort of criticizing and making a joke out of the Indian healthcare system and how long, you know, everyone that's ever had to go to an Indian clinic knows that the wait is usually really long. You have to wait all day. And so it's about characters that are waiting all day to see the doctor and the bonding that they do while they wait.
You have dual roles. You're the screenwriter, you're also the director. Does that help you focus on your overall vision?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just couldn't imagine writing something and giving it away to someone. I mean, I could. That's not true. But I fall in love with films when I'm writing them, so it's like I can see them. You know, I'm visualizing them as I write, so I really want to make them once I finish and when I'm writing them. So I would make a film off someone else's material, though, for sure. And if it was the right thing.
Any possibilities along those lines?
You know, it's weird. I don't know that much. Like, I don't know that much about this industry. It's like I've been pretty successful in it, but I don't have an agent. I don't know, I don't know how people get adaptations. I don't know anything like that. I would love to make a film of Louise Erdrich's books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My dream was to make Winter in the Blood, but it's already been made. So, I don't know. I feel like the good books that come out new are kind of swallowed up and taken. I would love to make there's a book called 3 Day Road that I would love to make. So I don't know. It's a weird thing to navigate. We'll figure it out. If you find any books, let me know.
Oh, listen, I've got several. My mind's clicking as we
Yeah.
as we speak. When you first started with Sundance, what were some of the most important things you needed to learn as a filmmaker?
Just everything. I really went in cold, and I'd made short films with like one other person, and my crew was just maybe 1 or 2 people. I didn't know anything about it. So the main thing that I learned was how to work with a crew. I learned what a script supervisor was. I learned what a first AD was. I learned everything. And I also learned how to work with actors, and I learned things that that I use today that I'm so glad that I know, because they're so valuable, like in terms of working with actors.
How hard is it to find the right actor for the right part?
I've never had trouble. I mean, I always hear stories about people trying to cast for years or months to find the right person, but I usually think of someone and then I go for it, and I know that I work well with actors, and I'm never afraid that I'm always pretty positive that I can get performances out of them. And I use a lot of real people. I use family sometimes. It's just like if someone has a quality about them. I don't think everyone can act, but some people can. And I can tell who they are usually by a conversation or talking to them. And it's just qualities that they have if they're interesting and just come off and they look good on camera. One of the main characters in my new film was, one of the main actors in my new film was a main character in my documentary. And I just liked him so much that I had this part, and I was like, would you act? Would you be in this film? And he was like, yeah. And so he did it. He's really amazing in it. Like you would think he's a professional,
You don't use a lot of marquee names in your roles. Nevertheless, they're always very effective and moving. Do you think as a society we put too much emphasis on celebrity?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, for sure. You have to the thing is like, my films are made predominantly about Native people, and there are no celebrity Native people, really. I mean, you can say Adam Beach is a celebrity, you can say these people are celebrities,
I know.
but no one's going to give you money for them, and they're not going to put people in theaters. And so it's a really difficult thing, because that means to have names in your film to actually get a budget that's good, you have to have main characters that are usually white or non-native for sure, and then you could find actors to play these parts. So I've just chosen not to do that, and I feel like I've been slowly building my audience. Instead of like coming out with a film and like boom, it's explosion. It's like I've been slowly building an audience over the years. So.
Do your actors ever give you new insights into the story itself?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to let them interpret the film and the role. You have to be able to let them interpret it, and they can make it better.
When you look back at some of your earlier work, how do you see that you've grown?
Just more confident in camera and storytelling with the camera. More confident to take risks. It's also become a little more second nature for me. Like I think making this Land TV show helped a lot, because I was making documentaries constantly, and so I would have to walk into a room and that wasn't just here's Bob and this is what he does. It's like they had to be good stories, and they had to look good. And so I would walk into a room and know exactly where I needed to shoot, because I was editing in my head, and so I edited the documentaries myself. And I think that helped a lot, just getting more confident with camera placement and all of that.
Were you intimidated at all by your early success? I mean, you set the bar pretty high for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, after the first film did well, I didn't know what to. I was trying to write this really big story, and then one day I just had the idea to do Barking Water, which was really simple. And I thought, I think I should just do something simple in my second film, because people try to like knock it out of the park with their second one, or they crumble under the pressure of trying to make something they feel like is worthy. And so I just wrote a story that was pretty simple and a love story, and luckily it worked out and did well. And then I made a documentary, just a story that I'd always wanted to make.
About your grandfather.
Yeah, well, it was about songs, these songs that Muskogee Creek and Seminole people sing, but it turns into it was about that, but then it turned into also being about my grandfather. It's called This May Be the Last Time.
Yes.
Yeah. And then my new film's called Miko, which is what I'm finishing right now.
You say it's in post-production. For those of us who are lay people, what does post-production mean? Why is that so important to the film?
Well,
and to you?
Post-production just means you've finished production, and now you're in post-production. So that's from editing to music to color correction to everything. So I mean, it's just a necessary step.
Can a film change a lot in post-production?
Yeah, I mean, it's where I feel like it comes together, really. It's the final rewrite of the film. And, music makes a difference. Sound design makes a difference. Everything, So I've been editing this new film of mine myself, and, it's been pretty brutal just because I wrote it and directed it, and it's hard to get your head out of it, And so I've recently hired an editor to work with, and which will help me finish the film, so.
Let's backtrack a little bit and talk some more about Four Sheets to the Wind. How would you describe this film to people who haven't seen it yet?
Four Sheets to the Wind is an essay that I wrote about how I feel about the world, and I'm still made to read it 30 years later, and like 10 years later. That's how I feel about it. Because, it's a very personal film. It was a film written by a 23-year-old me. I've changed so much since then. I can't even hardly watch it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. I see mistakes. But I also just see the philosophy and see me behind it. And it's a good movie. It's just that personally, it's hard for me to watch because, I would have done so much different and changed my outlook on the world. So
it's part of the learning process. Tell us what you like about it. What did you do right with that film?
Well, I told a story about Native people, and I didn't focus on it being about Native people. Just a story about love and loss, and about waking up, and about coming of age, and about Oklahoma. And it was set in a specific world, but it didn't necessarily. Those characters could have been any nationality as well, and you could have felt the same emotional beats, I believe.
Even as you say that, I wonder if sometimes you don't feel pressured in a way to confront all the stereotypes that are out there, just confront them head on.
Well, I feel like Four Sheets to Win was an example of that, where it was a reactive film, I think. Where I looked at all of the stereotypes and where people said, or taboo, like you can't do that, and I just did it. Showing characters drink alcohol that are Native without them having being alcoholics, or showing interracial relationship between a Native person and a white girl, and it's like, there's not a big issue about it. The whole movie's not about that. It just happens, So I was reacting, I think, to a lot of bad American Indian films that sort of tried to take on stereotypes, but really it just kind of perpetuates them when you just are preaching, I think. So.
Oh, I agree. Do you think that your next film, Barking Water, is a better film?
Yeah, I do. I really like it. It's I like I like the love story at the heart of it, and all around, I just feel like I had a better time making that film. I was able to just do it the way I wanted to do it.
Explain the resonance of the title, Barking Water.
Barking Water, the characters are going to a town called Wewoka, which is a town that I grew up right near.
Know it well.
Yeah, and which means barking waters, and so that's where they were going, and just had a ring to it,
Yeah. No, it sounds great.
Yeah.
You told me that the budget for this film was what, 150,000?
Yeah, it was around there. Yeah.
What can you do with 150,000? It's pretty hard to budget creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. It's lots of people work for cheap, and you know, the financier, the executive producer was the caterer. You know, there was a lot of things like that going on, but people cared about it, and you know, it's amazing what people will do if they care about a project. You know,
Would more money have made a huge difference to the film?
it would have just made it look better.
Well, it looks awfully
Yeah.
good. Some of beautiful, beautiful images of rural Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What would you say to other filmmakers who are interested in filming on location here?
You mean from here, people that are from here?
From here or
Yeah.
not from here? Both.
About Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good place to shoot. People are really kind. People, you know, they make you cookies and they'll let you use their stuff without a hassle. And it's very diverse as far as the terrain goes, so you can do a lot of different things here. Our lawmakers make it difficult, but, you know, they'll be gone someday.
Well, I was going to ask you if you thought that was changing a little bit. And do you think you've learned more about Oklahoma since you've been filming here?
Yeah. You know, I've really kind of stood my ground and said I wasn't leaving, and I've made my career here, for better or for worse. And sometimes I feel like it was for worse, but you know, I stand by that. It's not, I don't just want to be a filmmaker. I also have a lot of things about me that I like that I couldn't do if I wasn't here. So I enjoy Oklahoma. I wish that artists were a little more supported. I wish it was an easier place for artists to live and work. But you know, I think with time and probably with the work that I do and other people do, that'll get better. So
clearly, filmmaking is very personal for you. When you make a film that's very, very family-centered, like your latest documentary, what impact does that have on you, on the people close to you? When you're writing about the disappearance of your grandfather, and then you're bringing in your heritage as well.
Well, I think it's just a fascinating place and people that I grew up with, so I like telling stories about them, and I think it makes them proud. And you know, it's like with the case of my grandfather, he died when my dad was 5, and you know, one of the best compliments I got was my dad said that he felt he didn't really know him, you know, and he said that after through the process of me making the film and then showing the film, and my dad was at the Sundance Film Festival when it played, through that whole process, he said, I feel like I know him better, you know.
That's got to be the best review you ever got.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you can't beat that compliment.
There's a story I heard hundreds of times.
Now let's speak a little more about the music in the film, because that's such a critical component of it. How did you get that all layered in and organized like you did?
It's just a film that I wanted to always make about these songs that we sing, the history of them, where they come from, you know, how they are pretty important as far as the evolution of American music, and no one knows about them. And it's a style of singing that was almost extinct until people found out that Muskogee Creek and Seminole people have saved it, and sort of it incubated in Oklahoma, and that's where it's existed. When we were moved from Georgia to Oklahoma, we took these style of singing with us, and it survived here. So just a fascinating story, and it's just beautiful singers that I have. So I really wanted to capture it, to preserve it, and to maybe encourage people to learn how to sing those other Creek people and kids, you know.
Miko, what can we expect in this film?
I'm excited about it. It's a thriller. It feels like it feels like a 1970s like thriller. That's kind of the thing that I was going for. It's a thriller that takes place within the homeless Native community in Tulsa, and I, you know, cast some real people from the streets. I cast actors, and we shot all over Tulsa, mainly Kendall Whittier, and it's pretty dark. It's a thriller, and I really like it.
Do you think dark is in now, particularly that noir quality that I respect so much?
I think it always is up and down, you know. There's been some dark films lately, but I don't know.
But you never would make a film just because of a trend of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see the film and it's like, oh, it's a Sterlin Harjo film. That it's a Sterlin Harjo take of a thriller, you know. So you know, it's still very like kind of lyrical and
it's a signature film.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, you'll see things from the other films probably when you watch it.
What's the best film you still haven't made yet?
I feel like it's always the next one that I'm going to make. So I don't know. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I would like to make. What is some? I would love to make. Man, I don't know. Maybe you know, I think that a real accurate portrayal, brutal and about love, about loss, about hope of the Trail of Tears would be good. Yeah.
And that's not been done.
No.
That's not been done. Why do you think it hasn't been done?
Because people don't know about it. I didn't know the extent of it. I knew about it, but I didn't know the extent of it until I left my hometown and learned about it in college. Our education system doesn't like to really dwell on that brutal stuff, you know. If there were photos existing, then yeah, we'd have to, but there's no photos, and you know, there's not even a lot of records of it, what happened. So
No.
yeah.
I think that would be extraordinary. We just have a few seconds left. What would you tell others who are watching about dreams and following through on them?
Dreams are good. You have to, you know, go for them because otherwise you won't do them.
Lovely. Couldn't said
Yeah.
it better. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Sterlin. Thank all of you for joining us on Writing Out Loud.
Him